The National Storytelling Network, the Cobb County Storytellers, and guests are proud to sponsor Tellebration.
This year's program is dedicated to the memory of Mrs. Ann Virginia Wallace. She served her community as the facilitator of the Southern Crescent Storytellers and was also a member of the National Storytelling Network. For many years, she served not only as a mentor to the members of the Cobb County Storytellers, but also as a person of inspiration. Through her propagation, dedication, and tenacity, she was able to help preserve the oral tradition of storytelling, especially among children.
Beginning virtually on November 20th from the Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center, it is hereby proclaimed to be Tellebration.
This worldwide event of storytelling is happening at this very moment across 6 continents, 9 countries, and in 40 states. Over 300 audiences have gathered for this spectacular storytelling event.
Without further delay, let the stories begin.
Hi, my name is Stewart Mann, and in honor of the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, I'm going to share a story called The Secret of the Shamash. They say long ago in the great city of Constantinople, there was a doctor, a Jewish doctor, who was very well known, very well regarded for his wisdom, his knowledge, his scholarship, and the care that he gave to his patients. His name was Nisim Rahamim. Now there in Constantinople, there was a very powerful sultan. And the sultan came to know about Nisim. And every so often the sultan, as he was going around the city visiting the people, he would stop in and visit with Nisim Rahamim. And so it happened one winter during the festival of Hanukkah. And so the sultan came with his entourage, and when he arrived at Nisim's door, he saw that they were celebrating inside. Nisim welcomed him in, for they had become friends, and the sultan asked Nisim what was happening, and Nisim told him it was the festival of Hanukkah. And the sultan said, "Tell me about that." And Nisim told him about how years before, how the temple had been overrun, and how Judah Maccabee and the other Maccabees, they had taken the temple back for the Jewish people. And that they only had one pot of oil that would only last one night, but there was the miracle of the oil. The oil lasted 8 nights, long enough for them to get more oil so that the eternal light could keep burning. And so he explained that that is the celebration of Hanukkah. And he told them about the game that the children were playing with a little toy called a dreidel, and how they would spin the dreidel. The dreidel was 4-sided, and it had Hebrew letters on each side, the letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin, that stood for the Hebrew words Nes Gadol Haya Sham, which means a great miracle was there. It commemorates the miracle of the light. And the children would spin the dreidel, and depending on where it landed, it would indicate whether you take a marble or a penny or a coin out of the pot, or you put one in, or you take everything, or you take half of it. And he could see, the sultan could see, that the children really enjoyed the game. And then the sultan noticed a candle holder. It was a candle holder that had 4 candles on one side and 4 on the other, and then 1 sticking up in the middle. And he asked Nisim about this candle holder. And Nisim said, "Oh, that is our menorah, or for Hanukkah, we call it a Hanukkah. And that is a special candle holder that commemorates the miracle of the oil." And the sultan said, "Well, tell me more about it." And Nisim said, "Well, the oil lasted for 8 nights. And so we have 8 candles, and we burn 1 candle each night to remember those 8 nights. The sultan said, "Yes, but there's one in the middle that stands above the others." "Well, what is that one?" And the sultan said, "Oh, Your Majesty, that is the shamash. The shamash is the one that we use to light all the others, for we are not allowed to use an already lit candle or one that has burned already to light the others." And the sultan said, "Well, why is it above the others if it is only used to light them?" And Nisim said, "I don't know, that's just how it is." But the sultan was a very suspicious person. And he had just heard a tale about the Maccabees and rising up against their oppressors. And he was always worried that the people of his city, even the Jews, might rise up against him. And so something took hold of him. And he said, I know you are not telling me the truth. There must be a secret of the Shamash. I command you, I will give you 3 days to discover this secret if you don't know it, and then come and tell it to me at the palace, or the consequences will be dire for you, your family, and your people. And with that, the Sultan left and took his entourage and went back to the palace. And Nissim had no idea what to do. He talked to his family. They knew nothing about a secret of the Shamash. He talked to his relatives. And so he spent 2 or 3 days searching through the books, talking to the other wise men. What is the secret of the Shamash? And they all said, there is no secret. For in Hebrew, the word Shamash just means a helper or a server. In a synagogue, the Shamash is the person who cleans up after the services are over, the custodian, the keeper. And that is what the Shamash was. But no one could tell him why the Shamash was above the other ones. And so, with a heavy heart, after 3 days passed, Nissim took leave of his family, for he did not know what those consequences could be. And he had heard tell that the Sultan had quite a temper and was known to be very, very rash and very cruel to people of whom he disapproved. Nissim told his family he might not return. Well, he walked the long road with a heavy heart and his head hanging down. And as he walked, he suddenly sensed there was someone walking beside him. And he looked and he saw an old man. He had no idea where this old man had come from. And the old man said, hello. And Nissim said, oh, hello. And the old man said, where are you going? And Nissim said, I have a chore. I have somewhere I need to go. And Nissim made it clear he had no desire to talk. And the old man said, well, may I walk with you? And Nissim didn't want to be rude, so he said, well, very well, you can walk with me. And as they started on the way, the old man said, well, tell me, my friend, as we walk, would you like to carry me, or should I carry you? And Nissim thought that to be a very odd question. He thought, well, no, I suppose I could carry you, but I don't think you could carry me, so let's just walk. And he dismissed it. They continued on their way, and they passed by a house where they heard the sounds of sadness. And they could see through the window that there was a coffin in the house, and they could tell that there was mourning going on. Someone had passed. And the old man said to Nissim, oh, tell me, my friend, do you think the person in that coffin is dead or still living? And Nissim realized that this old man must be suffering from the challenges of old age when the mind sometimes gets confused. And so he didn't even answer, and instead he retreated into his own reverie, his own thoughts. They continued walking, and they came by a field that was full of golden wheat. And the old man said, oh, look at all the golden wheat. And Nissim said, yes, it looks like they will have a wonderful harvest. And the old man said, well, tell me, do you think the wheat in that field has already been eaten? He just shook his head and didn't answer. I thought, this man must be suffering very badly. They continued walking, and they came by a house where, a very large house, it seemed like it could hold a lot of people. And the old man said, oh, look at this home. Do you think that there are living people inside? And Nissim could not hold back anymore. He said, why, sir, of course, that looks like a house that people live in. Of course there are living people. Why would you ask me such a thing? And the old man said, oh, no, I didn't mean, are there people in there? When I said living people, I meant children. For it's children that bring life to a home. And if there are children in there, that means there are living people, for there is life. And Nissim realized that perhaps the old man wasn't as addled as he had assumed. And he said, well, earlier when you asked me about the field full of wheat and you asked if it had already been eaten, surely you could tell that it hadn't even been harvested. And the old man said, oh, yes, I knew the wheat was still in the field, but sometimes when people know that they are going to earn money from something, they spend the money before it is even earned. And if these people had spent the money that they were going to get from that field, it would be as if to say they had already eaten the wheat in the field. And Nissim understood. He said, and when we went by that house with the coffin, you knew that the person in the coffin was dead, right? And the old man said, oh, of course, I knew that the body was no longer functioning. But if a person has lived a good life, and lives on in fond memories of many, many people, then we say that that person is still alive. And if the person has lived a selfish and careless life, then people don't remember that person fondly or at all. We say that person has died. I just wondered if the person had lived a good life and would live on for many, many years in people's memories. Newsom said, and when you asked me if I should carry you or you should carry me, did you really mean for one of us to carry the other? Oh, no, no, of course not. When people go on a long journey, the road is long, and sometimes the road can be made shorter. The journey can be made easier if they tell each other stories or sing songs to each other. So I was just asking, did you want to tell me a story? Or would you like me to tell you a story? For in telling the stories to each other, it is as if we are carrying each other on our journey. But my friend, I can see that you are carrying something very heavy. Perhaps you would like to share it with me, and I can lighten your load. And Nisim realized that perhaps this man could help him. And so he explained the challenge that the Sultan had given him to come up with the secret of the shamash. And the old man said, oh, well, there is no secret of the shamash, but if you must tell him a secret, tell him this, that the shamash serves the other candles, but it is lifted above. In the same way that a leader who is lifted above should know that his real job is to serve those around him. And it is only by serving his subjects that he earns and maintains the right to be above them. That, you may tell him, is the secret of the shamash. And Nisim felt breath come into himself. He felt a lift in his step. And he turned and looked. The old man had disappeared. Well, he continued on his way, and he got there to the palace. And the Sultan said, my friend, good doctor, have you come to tell me the secret? And Nisim said, Your Majesty, if you must have a secret, understand this. The shamash is like a leader, lifted above the others only because he earns that right by serving them. The shamash provides light to the candles in the way that a leader must constantly think of how he can provide light to his subjects. And the Sultan thought about this and saw the wisdom of it and reflected on his own leadership. And he told Nisim, my friend, not only am I going to spare you and your family and your people, but I would like to invite you to come and live here at the palace with me and to be my trusted advisor, for you clearly have great wisdom in the ways of leadership. And so Nisim did come, and he brought his family, and they lived a good life, and he continued to advise the Sultan. And that is the story of the secret of the shamash.